Aronov is the OG woman that rocks. From her youth to today, Andie has always had a passion for music and has turned that passion into a platform for female musicians. What started as a profile on Instagram has evolved into an entire community that lifts up lady artists through features, articles, and events. On this week's episode, Andie and I discuss the industry, her founding story, plus she'll share who she's currently listening to. I'm Victoria Principato, and this is Yuptown. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Of course, I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, Andie, maybe we could start off. Maybe you could give a little bit of an introduction for yourself and tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. Okay. Introduction for myself. I'm so used to diving right into the introduction for Women That Rock. So I will shift focus to myself. Intro for myself. Okay. So I'm Andie Aronov. I am 33 years old and a New York City native. I started my career in the music industry actually as a little kid. I started singing professionally when I was like 7 or 8 years old. I sort of fell into it. My dad produces TV commercials, and I went with him to the studio one day just to like be the kid and watch him do a session for a commercial he was working on. And I was just having like a blast sitting in the lounge, eating snacks, like playing with the toys, just like observing everything. And then at the end of the session, when the client had left and everybody had left, I said to my dad and to the studio owner, I was like, hey, can I go into the, I didn't know what it was all called at the time, but I was asking to go into the vocal booth and be able to like sing to myself. And they were like, sure, whatever. Okay. So, cause everything was already broken down. So I went inside and I started to sing to myself, like pretending that I was an artist. And it turned out that the owner of the studio had the talkback button on, so he could hear everything that I was singing.
Wow.
And he turned to my dad and he was like, she could do this. She could like actually do this. And that kind of spiraled into like, ultimately I got an agent. I started going out on auditions. I started going out on jobs. Like I had kind of like a little mini career as a kid as like a voiceover artist and jingle singer.
That is incredible. Wow.
That was the beginning. And I went to school in New York City until I was about 13. Then we moved out to Eastern Long Island when I was 13, and I had more of like a normal high school experience. And then I moved out to LA and had started college at USC.
Wow.
Fell into their music business program, which was sort of where I discovered like, oh, this is really what I want to study. But I wasn't in love with USC. I wasn't in love with LA. And I discovered the Clive Davis Institute at NYU.
Wow.
And at the time it was really pretty brand new. I think there were like 4 graduating classes at that point. And I applied to transfer, and miraculously I got in.
So you went back to school, you studied music, you studied music business, right? That's the name of
it was like 25 kids
focus.
per year.
So what prompted you to start Women That Rock, and how did you get involved in your own entrepreneurial venture?
And I moved back to the East Coast. I sort of always had a little bit of like the entrepreneur bug, and I think that's something that people either have or don't have. And that was sort of like the foundation of my, some people want to start something and other people journey into the music don't. Like, and there's no right or wrong.
You seem like such a well-adjusted child star.
Exactly. And I think child star, I think that was always like a little bit inside of me. I was always raised in going to schools and like with a family that was very much like dream big, you can accomplish anything, like very sort of supportive and like high expectations. And so I graduated in 2011, and at that point I'd already had like a whole bunch of jobs and internships in the industry, and I spent about 10 years, I guess, a little under 10 years in the industry after school, working a number of jobs in a number of different areas of the industry, like kind of cutting my teeth and getting my experience and learning about the workforce and learning about the industry. And then I found myself in a place like right around 2018 where I was like managing a couple of artists. I was doing some A&R and some executive creative production at a recording studio, and also doing some music supervision. And I was just kind of finding myself building relationships with artists who were approaching me wanting help, and always looking for like a way to grow, right? Like, how do I grow? What do I do? And so many of the press outlets that exist are so, it's like a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's like an Oz behind the curtain. Like, you know, you kind of don't know how to get in. You don't know how to talk to the people. It's all like through a
I
submission
hate to
process.
overgeneralize. but is it like just who you know kind of thing, or is that
Sort of, yeah, or like me having an in, right? Like
right?
the submissions to big publications, like you generally don't hear back. It's like just a kind of really heavy duty process. And I was wanting to find a way to help artists and predominantly women artists because that's sort of like just the focus of my whole life was like surrounding myself with women and women artists, and that was
Mm.
my community. Um, and and I just kind of had this bug to do something on my own and work for myself instead of working for others.
Yeah,
And
because what does
so,
that path kind of maybe look like in the industry if you were to be a manager of an artist?
yeah, I mean, I think, well, at the time I was trying to manage some like punk and rock artists, which was
Wow.
especially challenging because I think like the ethos of punk is sort of anti-commercial. So it was
Right.
challenging because I was working with artists who like wanted to grow but didn't want to like quote unquote sell out or
Right,
like,
because they're you're relying on that growth and the man, but
exactly. And you have to sort of make money. So there's just like there's a fine line there. But
right.
artist management would have looked like having a roster of and actually just side note, I do actually still manage a band
Wow.
now. So that's still something that I'm doing. But what that looks like is having a roster of bands, clients, artists that you really believe in and
Mm.
being sort of as involved in their day to day and their strategy
Mhm.
as makes sense for that client, right? So the artists that I work with, generally I do more strategy and like top level management rather than day
Okay.
to day. Like I'm not scheduling their rehearsals, I'm not booking their venues, I'm not like ordering their merch. I'm doing more sort of like what I call macro management.
Okay.
So release strategy, negotiations, sync licensing, securing deals, and like kind of more high level, like how do you grow.
Right.
um and that can look a lot of different ways. That a lot of people do have more sort of day-to-day managers who are in the thick of every single thing that they do.
Mhm.
So that's sort of what that would have looked like for me. Does that answers your question?
No, that definitely helps to
Yeah.
demystify a little bit of what it actually means to be an artist manager, so thank you.
Yeah,
So what kind of like spurred you to want to start Women That Rock?
really just wanting more autonomy,
Mm.
frankly, like wanting to be able to do everything my way and
Got
figure it
it.
out. And when I started Women That Rock, I didn't start it really with the plan to start a company. Like I
Got it.
just started this platform through Instagram. I grabbed the name online, like I saw that Women That Rock was available on Instagram, which felt like a weird trick, and created like a little temporary icon and just started reaching out to my female artist friends and saying like, hey, I'm going to start this page, are you cool if I feature you, just sort of looking for content. And they
Cool.
were all like immediately so excited, like
Right.
beyond excited. And then I started doing some just grassroots social media outreach marketing. Um, and the inbox just exploded. Like women
Wow.
women were so pumped and like, oh my god, yes, how can I get involved, how can I be featured, what do you need from me, I'm so excited, please let me be involved. Like it was literally, I always say that like the inbox went from 0 to 10 to 20 to 50 to 100 to 500 to it just like exploded. And it was like,
Wow.
oh wow, there's really something here. and
Yeah.
and what I was always taught in school was like, in terms of marketing or starting a business, like you look for the gap in the marketplace, like you look
Mhm.
for a place where there is a need and you fill that need. So this was like people literally screaming at me being like, this is the need, do this thing. So I just kept taking the next, whatever felt like the next right step.
Mhm.
And that led me to realizing that like Women That Rock was enough of a thing to make it a company and like really make it a platform and start to grow it. So it it snowballed really from
Yeah.
being kind of like an industry based hobby to like with kind of entrepreneurial aspirations to a full-fledged company.
Wow. That is so exciting. It must have been really, really cool to see that full growth too over time.
It's been really bananas, like really, really bananas. I mean, I remember when the page had 0 followers and we just crossed over 24,000 followers.
That is so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's all been completely organic. I mean, it's all
Wow.
just been like my outreach and word of mouth and snowball. Like that, I've never hired a person. I've never like bought follow, like never any of that. It's all just organic community growth. So
Wow.
really crazy.
That's so exciting. You know how
Thank
many
you.
people would kill to have that position? That's insane.
I mean, I remember when my best friends and I were celebrating like hitting 1,000.
Wow.
Like I remember popping a bottle of champagne, I think at 2,000 with one of my best friends in the recording studio and being like, we can't believe it. This is so crazy. And like now it's 24,000 and I'm like trying to figure out what I'm going to do to celebrate 25.
Yes, that's so exciting that you get to have that, goal in mind.
Yeah.
Maybe you could tell me a little bit more about the content that you're putting out there and the Women That Rock community.
Sure. So basically, Women That Rock is like one body with two arms, is the way that I think about it.
Mm.
So one arm is our digital presence and our digital
Hmm.
platform, which predominantly is through Instagram. That platform is essentially like a blog, like a press outlet. We do essentially digital marketing and promotions through our
Cool.
Instagram page. So we do daily artist features. So we spotlight a cool up and coming female identifying artist tied to usually like a single release, an album release, an EP release, or some kind of special event. And we do these spotlights daily. So it's kind of this cool place for fans to discover new music, for artists to discover new collaborators, just sort of this like thriving community hub. And
Hmm.
then the other arm is we're a live events production company. So also putting on concerts, festivals, showcases, and other types of live music events, both in real life and also in the last year virtually, that feature all female identifying lineups. So
Mm.
it's essentially creating safe and welcoming and celebratory spaces for women on stage, and trying to kind of even out the playing field a little bit in terms of live performance opportunities for women. So
Wow.
yeah, it's kind of an intersection of those two things. And then we also have a few new company initiatives that are in the works that will kind of add more arms to the we're gonna just become, Women That Rock octopus.
That's very exciting. So what are you most excited for in the next year for Women That Rock? I know you mentioned, I think there's a Women That Rock virtual event, the Road Show.
Yeah, so we have our next virtual show is called the Road Show, and it's kind of a tour concept,
Hmm.
because touring has been off the books for a year and is really not going to actually start again until the fall. We
Right.
decided to do a virtual festival that's going to have a tour concept. So essentially, we're going to be traveling virtually across the country and visiting different cities and different artists that live in those cities and spotlighting those artists, spotlighting the cities, talking about
Cool.
favorite venues, favorite local spots, like featuring some local businesses. And we're partnering with an event collective called Stage Whisper Her on that. They did our Galentine's Day show with us. They're an emerging collective out of NYU, actually, run by three of my students,
No
which is
kidding.
really cool.
That is so
Um,
cool.
so that's on June 24th. We'll be announcing all the details soon, but June 24th is when the road show will be happening. So people should just follow on Instagram to get more details around that. And then this year, wow, I mean, coming out of the lockdown and COVID and quarantine, I think it's going to be about figuring out what live events look like for us again.
Hmm.
I'm excited in particular for hopefully another big initiative at South by Southwest,
Oh, no kidding.
2022, I guess at this point is what it'll be.
That's
Um,
super exciting.
yeah, and then we're also working on launching a sync licensing division. So we'll have a catalog of artists whose music we represent and place for film and TV and advertising sync placements.
Wow. Oh, that is so cool. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so exciting. Yeah, look at that octopus.
Yep, there it is.
Well, it's super, super exciting. Congratulations on, all that you've kind of accomplished and, have held in there for what's been like a really challenging year.
Very
Um,
challenging year. It feels like it took like 9 months of the pandemic to figure out how to do a virtual show
mm,
in a way that just feels like cool, we got it now. Like, it took sort of experimenting with Zoom and being like, oh no, like Zoom is garbage for this. No. And experimenting with Instagram Live and Facebook Live and
hmm.
different Restream and all kinds of different platforms and formats, and really sort of there's a learning curve, and there really was for everybody, which was really
Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
absolutely. And it's like 9 months in, up. Okay. And now I think I see the light at the end of the
Right.
tunnel.
But we're wondering how virtual events will continue to have a presence
Yeah.
moving forward. Especially because when you go to a live show in a city or you know, you're sort of limited to the pool of artists and people that are right there
Mm-hmm.
locally. Whereas for virtual, you can feature artists from all over the country, all over the world, different, you know, there's like a lot more flexibility in a way. I think that
Absolutely.
there will still be a place for virtual shows. I just think it's going to evolve, and we'll have to see kind of how that works.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's definitely here to stay, at least to some degree. So it's going to be really, really interesting to see how that all plays out. But it sounds
Yeah.
like you're really well positioned because you already know how the technical side works and you already have that digital community built. So
Yeah, we had
that's
an
awesome.
amazing we did a show for in celebration of Valentine's Day in
Uh-huh.
February. And it was amazing. I mean, we finally kind of cracked the code, and we had a bunch of major label artists on the lineup, which was incredible. And
Wow.
we had over 5,000 views within the first like day of the stream. Yeah, it was crazy. Just
Wow.
again, like exploded. So yeah, it's been really an interesting journey, and we'll see what the next steps look like.
So exciting. Okay, one
Yeah,
last question. Who are you
sure.
listening to right now and who should we be tuning into?
Oh my God. Okay. Because I'm on my computer, I can look at my Spotify and I can tell you.
Amazing.
Um, who have I been listening to? Okay, so there's one artist that was on our recent Spring Fling lineup. Her name is
Oh.
Tem Scott.
Mm-hmm.
I've been listening obsessively to her latest single, Steering Clear, which is a collaboration with an artist called Carling.
Okay.
Um, I have been listening to Olivia Dean. I have been listening to, there's an artist named Chloe, but it's spelled Cxloe.
Okay.
I've been listening to an artist called San May. She's from Australia. I am always listening to Nia Jane. I have been having like a big moment with Upsal. I don't know if you know, or you're familiar with Upsal.
I'm not.
And then also that recently we just featured an artist named Emma Charles. She just dropped a single called Get to Me.
Okay.
And it's just magic.
What's your favorite style of music, would you say, if you had a preference? I
Oh,
think maybe it's like a tough question.
well, it's a tough question because like I do legitimately have a love for almost all genres. Like
Right. It's all
pretty
mood
much
based for me
it's all
too.
mood based, it's all song based for me. So
Mm,
like within a genre I can love a song, you know, I can like love a genre and hate a genre, just totally dependent on the song.
right.
Um I will say like I am definitely sort of an alternative pop fan. Like
Right.
that's where I lean, and also indie rock. Like I would say indie rock and alt pop are kind of the places that like I gravitate towards. But I also love rock, like straightforward, like four to the floor, like aggressive rock. I love some punk. I love some country. Like, and that's an unpopular opinion amongst a lot of East
There's a
Coasters.
time and a place for it. There is a time and a place for it.
And there's some country music that is so good.
Agreed. I completely agree. Completely agree.
I'm not like a big fan of Luke Bryan, but there is like
No.
quite a lot of great country music that exists that's like lyrically and like the songwriting in country music is really strong and tells a
Yeah,
great story. Yeah, I mean, really, really all genres.
I agree. I mean, like if it's not, it has to, I feel like it has to mention a truck at some point, maybe. But I do love Chris Stapleton. I love the Steel Drivers. His band
Yeah.
is so good. I don't know if you necessarily say that's like country, but
Right. I mean, you know, I think that for at least for women that rock, I try to listen to things through the lens of like not just do I like this,
mm,
but also like would anybody like this? Sort
right.
of like can I envision myself being a person with different musical tastes that would like this? So a little bit less, you know, less personalized to just me and my taste.
Right. So it must be hard to kind of try to curate for like a wider but also niche group, you know?
You know, it's not really niche. Like, and it's funny too because a lot of times people reach out and they're like, "Do you feature people who aren't rock artists?" And I'm like, "Totally. Like, it's all
Yeah.
genres. It's all types of people. Like, it's women that rock in with the double entendre of like rock music, but
But
also like
just
yeah, like
they're
rock
awesome.
on. Like
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah,
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, again, thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? Any last
of
pieces of
course.
advice?
Advice for like emerging entrepreneurs. Advice
Yeah,
who are we
early
giving advice
career,
to?
early career, yeah, people early on in their career.
Sure. So, I mean, you know, at NYU, I shared out that I'm an adjunct professor now back at the program I graduated from at Tisch,
Wow, full
which
circle.
has been wild. but really, so I have a lot of experience with mentoring young students and young entrepreneurs and young artists. Um, my biggest piece of advice is go for it. Like try, don't just necessarily kind of like dream and hope and wish, like just try. That's really what happened with Women That Rock was I tried and one thing worked and then I tried the next thing and that thing worked. And then and there's a lot of no's and there's a lot of unreplied emails and there's, like you don't always get a yes, but sometimes you do. And that's pretty cool. And like, especially as a woman, I think learning to sort of lean in and just ask for what you want. I mean, I can't tell you how many jobs or opportunities I've gotten by literally writing a cold email or letter to a person that I find through something. Like I got a job at So Far Sounds by approaching their New York director. Yeah, years ago when they were like brand new. I read an article about them in New York Times Magazine, and they mentioned their New York director, this girl Jody, and I was like, something about the company just like glared out at me, and I was like, I need this, like I need them. I found Jody on LinkedIn, and I wrote her like a personalized, intimate email, and was like, I cast it out into the world, and I was like, we'll see. And within a week, I heard back from her, and within 3 weeks, I was working with them. Like
that's incredible.
Yeah. So like, just go for it. You never know, and you never know who's on the receiving end, right? Like, so when I hear from young emerging people or like people starting out, I always try to respond. I always try to help. I always try to be open because like everyone was once just a kid starting out. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And that's exactly how I reached out to you here on LinkedIn.
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah. So thank you so much for, being gracious enough to take some time and speak with me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah. And anyone can just follow, I would say the best way for people to stay in touch with Women That Rock and know what we're up to and the music that we're featuring is just to follow us on Instagram at Women That Rock. That is our home base. So
hell yeah. I'll put the Instagram handle in the description.
Amazing.
Super excited for you. And thank you so much again.
And thank you. It's been a pleasure chatting.
Be sure to tune into the Women That Rock's virtual event, The Roadshow, on June 24th, showing the diversity of tremendous women talent that exists across our nation. For more info and updates, check out the Women That Rock on Instagram.